Good morning, everyone. I'm not used to mics, normally I'm just used to like projecting. How is everybody this morning? Fine. All right. So we made it. We're here for the open house, and we're really excited to be with you. This is workshop number 5. My name is Taryn Sadia. I'm the director for the Florida Center for Community Design and Research, and we're the consultant team working with the Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission for the Wimauma Community Plan updates. Can I say, Sharon, how many of you are new with us, and this is the first workshop that you've joined us for? Great, so we have a few new hands and a lot of familiar faces, so we really do appreciate everybody's time being with us throughout the update process. And just to give an overview for those of you especially that are new, we had 4 things that we were really trying to achieve through the community plan update for Wimauma. And the first is for the livable communities element and the future land use element. The next is the downtown overlay. That's part of the land development code. The Wimauma Village Residential 2, which you'll hear called the WVR2, and that's also in the land development code. And the downtown strategic action plan. And that is something that's part of the community plan process. So we kicked off in January of 2020, and we had a community charrette in March of 2020. It was a 3.5-day workshop for the community, and we were very happy that we were able to do that. It was just before the COVID shutdown. We continued working with the community at that time, and we held a number of virtual workshops. We had community surveys. We did presentations with the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. We did some open houses, both in person and online. And then we came back to the community this spring. So we were really happy to be able to come back in person. And we have done a series of workshops with all of you starting this past March and carrying through to today. So today is workshop number 5. And workshop number 5 is our open house. So this is where we're going to put all the pieces together. So we broke down the community plan into different components so that it was a little bit easier for us to talk about with the community and also get your feedback and input. We wanted to make sure that things that we heard from the community we could bring back to you, and that those things we could report back and get additional input in terms of us being on track. And so the input that you've given us is what we're going to share with you. So do a recap of everything that has worked on in my community plan update, and give you an idea of what some of the priorities are that have been shared with us by the community. So just so everyone has an idea of where all of these different policy documents fit, we wanted to give you a little bit of a diagram to help you understand that. So you can see all the way at the top, we have our comprehensive plan, and then as we move down in the list, the important thing is understanding where those policy documents fall. So the next is the goals. So where goals begin to fit, that's where you'll find the livable communities element. It's where you're going to find the community plan, and it's where you're going to find the future values. And then those, that's when you're going to start to see the different land development codes. Those land development codes help set the standards of design for how areas will be feel. And we have 2 land development codes that we're looking at, and that are in the packets that have been passed out. One is for that downtown overlay, and the other is for the WVR2, the Wimauma Village Residential 2. And then there's big community plan documents that puts together some of the policies with other community plan and urban design elements for Wimauma, and the strategic action plan, which helps set some actionable goals for downtown Wimauma. These are tools to help the community and that the community can use toward advocacy to help implement and help the implementation of the community plan. Sorry for the pause, everyone. I think we're frozen.
You might want to try it. The computer light might need to be turned on. Online, they're having trouble with it. So you might need to go out that light and just use the computer.
Just turn this one off.
You know, the computer. Yeah. Then speak behind, if you don't mind, Sharon.
Yeah.
Speaking behind the computer, project your voice just a bit. We know you can.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Those of you that have been in these presentations before know I don't really need a microphone, right? All right, so can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for the hands in the back. All right, so during the community planning process, we had 4 guiding principles. These were carried through our plans. They were carried both in conversation with community members during our outreach, as well as into policy, and we built them into the frameworks. So they are health, equity, sustainability, and resiliency. We also talked with the community about the needs that were here. And then we determined 3 critical needs in terms of categories. And they are health, housing, and opportunity. Some of the key objectives that we heard from community members early on. Some of these have carried over from that original community plan that was done in 2007, and some are new things that we've heard or updates to some of those existing. We heard a lot about transportation, particularly the ability to walk and bike around Wimauma, transit opportunities, and wanting children to be able to walk and bike to school safely. Those were some of the key things. A distinctive character for the community, and a particular identity for downtown, as well as wanting to create opportunities for community members here in Wimauma. Some of our additional objectives that we heard about were wanting to maintain the affordability of the community in Wimauma, and also looking to create those new standards for design. So the livable communities element. This is the goals for the community. And remember, they sit as part of that guiding document for the community plan. There are 9 of them, and the community prioritized these differently in the update. And so when we look at those community priorities, you can see that the infrastructure and public realm is at the top of the list, followed by education, the Wimauma downtown and development, business and economic development, affordable housing and neighborhoods, mobility and transportation, parks, recreation and conservation, health, wellness and safety, and the Wimauma Village Residential 2 area. So these are the goals that are in the livable communities elements. And this is that prioritized list, and that we received those priorities from the community. So this is a little bit of that feedback in terms of what we heard from you as being most important for the community of Wimauma. And we have an example, and the example shows one of the goals, and under each goal, there's a series of bullet points. So in your packets, you'll see those. And so under the infrastructure and public realm, some of the things that rose to the top have to do with the water and sewer, particularly in the downtown area. Also infrastructure like access to internet services. So those are some of those key things that rose to the top in terms of community priorities. We created an urban design framework. This is a framework that helps us be able to go through the different policy components based off of your goals. So we were able to take those goals and put them into a framework, and we had 4 areas that we focused on. So mobility, forming character, environment and open space, and cultural capital and community. This slide is really talking about the idea of having continuity between neighborhoods, existing neighborhoods and future neighborhoods. And so one of the things that we do within our policy documents is we utilize similar methods so that we have that continuity. So we have this focusing in 2 different areas within the land development code documents that you have, and it's through the street cross section. So what that street room looks like from building face to building face, right? That space in between, which is what's here. And then the other is in our building lot types. And those building lot types help us to understand the scale of buildings and where they're placed on a parcel. So we're going to go through some of the urban design framework. These images give you an idea of what some of those framework elements are trying to achieve through the policy. So for mobility, we're really looking at connected streets, maintaining the street grid that Wimauma has, as well as expanding it for new developments, the implementation of the Wimauma Trail, and other connected bicycle networks within the community. There we go. All right, so our next one is about forming character. One of the things that was important for the community and some of those objectives was that relationship between the rural community and the rural area and the town. And so focusing on nature and green landscape was something that's important. Incorporation of agri-hoods, neighborhoods that incorporate agriculture into them. That street room that we talked about, what that space in between buildings feels like. And then creating a variety of housing lot types as well as building lot types for the downtown. So environment and open space. We know how important the environment and open space is based on that community feedback, again, that we've received. And so looking at ways that we can conserve wetlands has been important. Parks and recreation fields, we've heard a lot about from the community. Constructive wetlands and low impact design. Things that we can do to help protect what's here. And agriculture and trails. And again, these are some of those elements that we've built into the framework that are being followed through into the policy. The next one that we're going to have come up is going to be cultural capital and community. And here it is. So what you'll see here in the images are reflective of some of the priorities that the community has for elements like neighborhood schools and wanting to see neighborhood schools in the community, neighborhood support uses. So support uses in new neighborhoods like child care centers or assisted living facilities. could be included in that, as well as community gardens, and then community parks and recreation spaces. So again, these are priorities that the community has had. In looking at neighborhood schools, one of the important elements that's included within the community goals is the idea of shared use agreements. So those are agreements between the school district and the community where certain facilities at the schools would become community resources, such as libraries, computer labs, or recreation fields, so that these resources really become a community-wide amenity. And this is our map of the downtown. And you can see in the lightly shaded area, the outline of the proposed downtown boundary. And then in the area that is the darker shaded area, in the upper right corner, is what we're identified as the transfer of development rights receiving zone. So that receiving zone is focused on more density and giving opportunities to add density specifically to that area. That area is also the area where we've identified the Main Street core. So focused on where existing small businesses are right now, as well as where they may be able to grow in the future, and providing the density around that Main Street area to help support those businesses and that business growth. Creating the overlay for downtown was something that was identified in the original community plan, and it was one of those livable community element goals. So in this update, we're fulfilling that goal of the original plan by creating the land development code and the overlay for Wimauma's downtown. Some of the things that we heard from the community in terms of elements that were really important and that are part of the policy recommendations for the downtown overlay included the beautification of the streets and being able to build in those natural and low impact green areas, focus on Florida-friendly landscaping, constructing sidewalks in existing neighborhoods and giving priority to those areas that are near schools, and completing the Wimauma Recreational Trail. So that trail that runs along the former railroad, which is now the Tico easement, and connects all the way through the rural area of Wimauma, through the WVR2, and into Wimauma's downtown, and then north up to Baum. So when does the overlay apply in downtown? When is it applicable? This is something that we've been asked. And so we wanted to make sure that everyone had a good understanding of it. Not every renovation means that the overlay is going to apply. Structures that are renovated 25% to 50% of their square footage would be responsible to have some of the landscaping requirements of the overlay apply. If they're looking at more than 50% of the square footage, then more of the overlay would apply. So you would have the landscaping and the signage and the building design requirements would apply. If it's a total new structure being constructed, then the entire overlay would apply. So it's incremental depending on the changes that might be made. For existing residential, single family, the applicability is that if you want to rebuild your home, you can do that. The overlay is voluntary. If your home is damaged or destroyed due to a catastrophic event or natural disaster such as a hurricane, the overlay is voluntary. And so that is something that you would choose to use or not. And then if the property is rezoned, then the overlay would apply. So if you choose to rezone your property, then the overlay would apply.
to on the or density is increased? Explain that to me.
So if you can hold your question to the end, we're going to do all questions at the end for a couple reasons. One, it's a long presentation today. And two, we're going to have everyone line up so that way all the folks that are online can hear your questions too. So if anyone needs a pen to write down questions, just raise your hand and we'll make sure someone brings a pen over to you. Thanks, everybody. So as we look at downtown, we wanted to provide everyone with a schematic of what a new development could look like based on the new overlay policy. And so this is an illustration of what a development could look like. So the policy would allow for mixed-use buildings where you could have shops, retail, restaurants on the ground floor. You could have businesses or apartments above. You could also have full courtyard apartment buildings. And so we just wanted to give everyone a sense of what something might look like. Affordable housing, we know, has been a big topic in the Wimauma community. And when we're looking at affordable housing, we know that the area median income, right? So that is the income that is looked at overall. So we have a definition here so that it is determined based on one's income in comparison to the incomes around you. So this is how they determine area median income. And in Hillsborough County, 80% of that area median income is just over $47,000. But here in Wimauma, we know that 80% of the area median income is just over $39,000. So we know that the area median income in Wimauma is lower than the overall county, and that's one of the reasons that we know that affordable housing is important to the community. It has been voiced a lot. Yeah. So again, we wanted to be able to show you that anywhere within the urban service area, Hillsborough County has the affordable housing density bonus. So there's a density bonus available for those that want to take advantage of it. And we have provided an additional incentive in the darkly shaded area for that transfer of development rights receiving zone, where if somebody wants to transfer development rights from the WVR2 into the downtown, they can stack that bonus with the affordable housing bonus. So it allows for more density and it gives an incentive to do it. We'll explain that TDR a little more in a few slides. So the affordable housing programs are in the county are defined by that area median income. But we also wanted to give everyone an understanding of what housing affordability means. And so what housing affordability means is when your household income is, and your household is spending less than 30% of income on housing costs. So if you are spending more than 30% of your household income on housing costs, that is considered a housing cost burden. But if you're spending less, then it is considered to be affordable. So one of the things that we wanted to incorporate into the policy is a mix of housing types, and to require that mix of housing types so that there are different size lots, different size houses to provide for a wider range of options and a different range of incomes. And you'll see that that mix of housing types is in both the downtown as well as the WVR2. The Wimauma Village Residential 2 is the shaded area here. That area has been identified as a special area since 1990. It was formerly the RP2, And in the 2007 community plan, it became the WBR2 and it became specific to Wimauma. So when we look at the policy, the intention of it was to prevent a pattern of development that was considered sprawl. And so we wanted to make sure that this is something that we are taking into consideration along with the community's priorities. And we wanted to create policies that support those community goals. And so in the WVR2, the Wimauma Village Residential 2, there's clustering housing at 4 dwelling units per acre. The WVR2 allows 2 units per gross acre to be built if these different requirements are met. The existing dwelling units per acre is 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres in the rural area. In the WVR2, if you meet these requirements, you can receive up to 2 dwelling units per acre. So that includes the clustering ratio. It includes maintaining 40% open space. In the plan, in the policy, what we're looking for is 30% of that open space to be connected in some way, and 10% of it to be included within the development, so through parks, through trails, and other open space. And then also to provide a number of community benefit options. So there's a number of community benefit options that a developer might be able to choose from, depending on the size of their overall development. And we'll go through those in a little bit. And so, again, this is really addressing compatibility and the idea of rural growth and continuing to explore alternative metrics so that we can balance that timing. And to give everyone a sense of what some of that is, right, it comes back to infrastructure. We know there's been a lot of infrastructure, and we know that infrastructure was that #1 goal in that livable communities element. So looking at streets, bicycle networks, trails, as well as other infrastructures as part of the timing as we see growth take shape in Wimauma. And the next one is feedback from all of you on some of the neighborhood elements that you felt were most important. So we asked you to prioritize or share with us those things which you felt were important as neighborhood elements. And so schools was right at the top. We know that schools and education is something that is that goal and a priority in the community, which we talked a little bit about already. A farming co-op, so opportunities for farming at different scales, neighborhood parks, support uses. Those support uses include, like we talked about, child care centers or assisted living facilities, looking at conservation areas, community gardens, recreation fields, agri-foods, and low impact development. So low impact development is really looking at natural ways to handle water and be able to deal with stormwater in ways that incorporate the landscape. And then community benefit options. So depending on the size of the community, these benefit options are some of what is required in order to receive those 2 dwelling units per acre. The community benefit option is proposed to replace the former jobs requirement that was included in the policy. And so we think it's a better tool in terms of being able to get the things that Wimauma needs, as well as the things that the community has prioritized as being important. So the development of 50 or more housing units shall meet with the school district, the county, and hold a community meeting to discuss it. So any development that's going to be 50 units of housing or more will have to do all those things. So this will be an opportunity for the community to discuss those things that are important at that time. And what all of this is saying is the number of benefits from our list of benefits that a developer would have to pay. So if you are, looking at least one benefit offered for 25 units, at least 2 benefits offered if you are greater than 25 but less than 50, and it goes on. And so if you are over 160, then we're looking at 5 benefits and so on. And once you get over 300, and let me see if I want to get my number right for you, 300, can you read that from here? Sorry, no, 320 acres. All right, so 320 acres. If you're more than 320 acres, you're going to be picking 6 benefits from the list. So it is a big number in terms of seeing, how benefits relate to the overall size of development. So in our next slides, we show you what some of these benefits are. All right, so that first one, right, is mix of housing types. The policy requires that there be a mix of 4 different housing types, but the community benefit option is to increase that mix to 6. And so if there's an even greater mix of housing types, that is one of benefit options.
Is that going to be Wimauma right now?
These are just examples of different housing. This is not to say this is exactly what it will look like. It's just to show what things could be, different housing types or densities. Again, these are just examples. And so this is an example of building a portion of the Wimauma Recreation Trail, right? So that big diagonal line there is the Tico easement. And so one of the things the community plan is proposing is that there be a Wimauma trail that is built adjacent to that easement. So we're just showing what a trail could look like. And our next benefit has to do with something that's called the Mufasa. It is a way that developers can help provide different structure, some of which the county can reimburse later, but some of those things include sidewalks, bike lanes, crosswalks, and other improvements. These can be on-site or off-site, so these could be things that are in and throughout all of the Wimauma community. So our next benefit is going to hopefully show up in a second. There we go. Our next benefit is for different types of open space that go above and beyond what is required in the way of either community gardens or agri-hoods. And so again, this is one of the options that the developers could select from. Also, one of is to work with the school district and be able to do a set aside for a school site as well as the infrastructure that might be required for that school. So just to give everybody an idea of what schools can build, schools are responsible to have the sidewalks that are around their campus. They're not allowed to use their funds to build additional sidewalks that are across the street and things like that. And so one of the options is that a developer can help supply the infrastructure that would help get kids to school. This one is for our community support uses. So if there's the inclusion of a community support use as a benefit, again, this could be something like an assisted living facility, it could be agri-hood or community garden. It can also be a child care center or something like that. But again, that community support use, so that it's something that's easily accessed and it's easy to get to from within the community. This is that explanation of the transfer of development rights. So one of the community benefits is the transfer of development rights. Right now, property owners can transfer a developable unit within the WVR2. So from one property to another in the WVR2. What this would allow is for property owners to be able to transfer a developable parcel from the WVR2 into the downtown. And remember that receiving zone that we talked about, right? That's the area that we're targeting. So we're going to transfer out of the WVR2 to preserve more rural space and open space and put it into the downtown where we want more of the density to be. There's a transfer ratio identified. For every one developable parcel that you transfer out of the WVR2, it equals 2 in the downtown. So that's the incentive, but it has to be a certain percentage in order to meet the community benefit option. So again, it's to help promote that rural area staying as open space and to put the density into the downtown.
There's one on bit of Main Street.
I will come back and I'll point it out to you. So open space and conservation areas, again, if you go above the requirement that's in the policy, this is another community benefit option. So if you increase that requirement percentage, that will help fulfill that. Building to a national green standard. So this is something that is, again, one of those benefit options. So the new developments can be built to what we would call a green standard. Both the structures, the houses themselves, as well as the overall site development. And so these would be, above and beyond what is required in the code. Providing additional open space internally as well. So these can be things that are community parks, they can be playgrounds, they can be other public squares. So these would be provided by the development. They would be open to the public and they would be maintained by the neighborhoods. And for this one of our other benefit options, and this is coming from feedback that we got from the community, is that a developer could choose to build square footage in the downtown. So they could build a commercial building, such as like a commercial kitchen, and build that in the downtown outside of their development. And this is something that we know is important to the community in terms of wanting to see that growth and development take shape in downtown. We know that there are certain things like the commercial kitchen that are important because there's a lot of aspiring caterers who could really use a commercial kitchen and have gone through that training. And so this is an opportunity for the community, again, through that required discussion, to be able to say the types of benefits that are most important at that time. We also have a benefit that is directed toward the LCE, the livable communities element, right? So you have those 9 goals. A developer could say they want to pick from that list of 9 goals to be able to provide to the community, and the community again will have that opportunity. So we're showing just some of the things that are identified in those goals, right? A transit circulator has been identified in the community goals. Access to internet's been identified in community goals. Economic development and facade improvement improvement program like that have been identified in the community goals. So we wanted to give you an idea of what a potential development within the WBR2 could look like. And based on the policy that is being proposed. So this diagonal line here is representing the potential for the Wimauma Community Trail, focusing development around it, preserving the area over here to your right as wetlands and constructed wetlands, and preserving that open space, clustering development together to help preserve it, creating the walkable block structure so that Wimauma is connected, is easy to walk, is easy to bike. This also is showing the potential to have a school site, which is up in the corner, and also co-locating a support use like a child care center there as well. This plan also demonstrates the ability to have an agri-hood, so smaller scale agriculture within the development, sitting between the development and the wetland area. So again, this is something that we just wanted to see and test out that policy and give everyone a sense of what it might look like. Okay, so this is where I really encourage everyone to take part in the activities that we have in the other room. We have a number of boards out there. Some go back through things that I've just shown you and just ask, you know, are we getting it right? And so we really would appreciate everyone, you know, there's a few sticker activities, but we have a lot of Post-it notes. We have a lot of places for you to be able to write in and tell us what you like, what you think might be missing. And now I'm going to go ahead and make sure that everyone kind of knows what's coming up next. We'll be going to the Planning Commission in July and then to the Board of County Commissioners in August. And I'm going to share with you where you can get more information. So you do have packets and handouts that have all of this information in it. You can also go to the website and you can also reach out to the Planning Commission staff on this project, who are Jay Collins and Sophia Garantia. I don't know if I see Jay, but I do see Sophia. And so if anyone has, you know, questions afterwards, please feel free to reach out. I am happy to go over any questions that you have. We are going to ask everyone, if you do have a question, if you can line up for us along the wall. We just want to make sure that all these questions get recorded and that everyone who's joining us online can hear your questions. So there is a microphone there, and any questions that you have, head on over and we'll start going through them.
Do you have a picture of the Wimauma?
Okay. First question. Do we need, Sophia, do you need the mic?
No,
Do you need the microphone for them?
Okay, Buddy Harwell, Balm, Florida. Page 7 on the livable community elements goals. The expand sewer and water for commercial development downtown. Is that going to be a benefit for the as far as one of the community benefits for the commercial, for the developer to do to help the community?
It could be. It could be, yes. So part of the infrastructure improvements as one of the community benefit options
could be some of that infrastructure. That would have to be an agreement with the
that would have to
county
be
as to
agreement with
what
the
it is
county
and where
as to
it would take
what
shape.
it is and
Yeah.
where
And then
it would
again,
take
the
shape.
community would have
And
the
then again,
opportunity
the
and
community would have the opportunity in a community meeting.
Is it
to be able
going to be
discuss it
limited
as
to a
well.
certain distance? I mean,
So
it'll have to be an agreement again with the
county in terms of how far the extent is, and where it would happen, and what the possibility is for it. But we put it in there so that it is an option, and that the developer has a chance to be able to discuss it with the county.
Okay, and there's another section in there, you talk about the developers improving the roads inside the community, and getting reimbursed from the county, but from what I understand, they can't do that if the roads aren't on the CIP, and the county does not put any roads on the CIP in the rural areas, so how is that gonna?
So some of Wimauma is also within the urban service area. And so there's a number of roads, particularly those leading into the downtown area.
So all of this area that's shaded here is urban service area
for Wimauma.
And so those types of
events
can
can
be
be urban
service
area.
So here,
and you are right about the CIP, the community improvement, capital improvement projects list. So we talked a little bit about that before in some of our previous meetings. That capital improvement projects list is very important, and it's very important that the community can advocate for the projects that it wants to see happen on that list. And so one of the tools is that community plan, the livable communities element, and the downtown strategic action plan, which will help the community be able to advocate for projects that it wants to see on that CIP.
One last,
Great question, buddy.
That's a great
one last
buddy.
question or note. You talked about the schools, about the school boards can only do the sidewalks for in front of the schools, which is true. But if it's a requirement, especially for the elementary schools, for them to be their donut hole in the community, then the sidewalks and bike paths are already built by the developer mostly, and you don't have the queuing problem for the cars wrapped around the roads, clogging artery roads and stuff and slowing down the traffic. So that's something that maybe you should look at. And high schools, on the outside, elementary schools inside, because you don't want the young kids walking along the major traffic areas.
It's a really great point, and an important one in terms of that difference, right, between elementary school and high school, which might be a little different. High schools tend to be bigger, have a larger draw area versus those elementary schools, which, yeah, we want to see located in the
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, I'm Zelvis Akron. I'm a Palm resident, owner, and also we have a church right off of 674 here in Wimauma. On page number 12, under the applicability of the overlay, your slide number 23. One of the things that you talk about, the existing residential single-family home or mobile home, if the property is rezoned, I get that, but or density is increased, the overlay applies. Could you explain that to me? And then also there have been a few comments on the screen saying that they're having a hard time hearing, especially youth.
So we'll make sure that, thank you for noting the people on screen saying they're having a hard time hearing, and I know staff is taking note of that, or they get questions that people ask online addressed. In terms of the applicability, so if you have a home in the downtown area right now, and it's a single family house on 1 acre of land, but you're currently zoned for R4, right, which would be 4 units per acre, you could build additional units on your existing property. The overlay is optional if you stay within your zoning. If you want to move into a higher zoning category, if you want to take advantage of the affordable housing bonus or the TDR, then you would work within the overlay to be able to do that, because you would rezone. If you want to change the use of a residential property to a commercial or commercial to a residential, then you would the overlay would apply, because it would be a zoning change.
Are you talking about density around you, or what are you talking about
here?
So that's in the applicability section. It is specific to your property in that section. Hi.
Thank you for the presentation. My name is St. Urban, and I am a realtor in the community. I don't think affordable housing is too popular among the people with lower income, especially with the Wimauma area you mentioned, AMI of 37,400. And it seems it is getting more out of reach for those income range. It seems that I don't know what the incentive is for the builders, because I see they are taking advantage of the market, which is becoming a seller's market more and more. Should the median income of 37,000, even 49,000, still a stretch to be able to afford those homes now, even what you considered affordable 6 months ago? What are those people doing with that AMI? Are they supposed to wait until whenever, maybe next year or 2023, if the market goes back even near what it was back in 2019 or 20? And what is the city doing to incentivize the builders so they don't really add that 20% or even more percent within the span of 6 months on the price of houses?
So let me start with the affordable housing component that you asked about. So within the policy, it does address the 80% AMI for Wimauma. This is something that we've discussed with Hillsborough County Affordable Housing, so that they can, make sure that there would be availability of affordable housing for Wimauma residents if Wimauma residents are interested in participating in the affordable housing that might be developed in downtown. So they are using those numbers. That's one of the reasons that we wanted to bring attention to it. We know that the affordability has been a concern for the community. You're right, it's a concern everywhere, right? We're seeing housing prices continue to rise across Florida, across other areas of the country. And so one of the things that we're trying to do by having the requirements of the different lot types and sizes is to try to provide more of a range. It's difficult in terms of being able to make other affordability components a requirement. We can't do any bonus densities within the WBR2, but if there perhaps could be other incentives, and if that's something that you're looking for to see additional incentives or an incentive different than a density bonus, then please make a note and write it down for us in the activities, because that's something that we want to make sure we can pass on to the Planning Commission and to the Board of County Commissioners for it. Thank you. Any more questions? So if everybody can make sure you take part in those activities, I would really, really appreciate it. We would really like to have your feedback and your input on those. We do have staff here, staff out there, volunteers that can help answer additional questions that you have them. Please reach out to us for any of those questions that you have. And thank you all for being here with us today. We really do appreciate your time, and it's really valuable to your community that you're participating. So thank you, and a round of applause for all of you for being here.